The golden light of late afternoon spills across Lake Michigan, painting the sprawling estate in hues of amber and rose. The Carter mansion buzzes with frenetic energy as staff in crisp uniforms arrange floral centerpieces and adjust silverware with surgical precision. Tomorrow marks the wedding of Damian Carter, the African-American media mogul whose empire spans television networks, publishing houses, and tech startups, to Naomi Bryant, a woman whose name alone opens doors in Washington and Wall Street alike. Naomi moves through the preparations with the effortless grace of someone born to wealth. Her champagne-colored silk dress whispers against her figure as she inspects the ballroom, her manicured fingers trailing along the edge of a table to check for dust. At 39, she carries herself with the poise of a queen, her dark eyes sharp, her smile practiced. Widowed 5 years prior, she has carefully rebuilt her life, ensuring her teenage son, Kyle, wants for nothing. Kyle lingers near the grand staircase, his expression sullen. At 16, he resents the intrusion of Damian's daughter, Leah, a quiet, bookish girl who still wears grief like a second skin. Leah's mother died 2 years ago, and since then, she has clung to her father with a quiet desperation. Kyle watches her now as she sits curled in a window seat, her knees drawn to her chest, her fingers tracing the spine of a worn novel. He sneers, muttering something under his breath, before stalking away. Leah barely notices him. Her attention drifts to Naomi, who now crosses the room, her face transforming into a picture of maternal warmth as Damian enters. He is a towering presence, his broad shoulders filling the doorway, his smile warm but weary. Leah's heart aches at the sight of him. He looks happier than he has in years, and she cannot bring herself to ruin it, because Naomi is not what she seems. When Damian is near, Naomi is all soft touches and honeyed words, praising Leah's intelligence, her manners. But when they are alone, her voice drops to a venomous whisper. "You're a burden," she had said just yesterday, her fingers digging into Leah's arm. Asterisk, your father pities you, but he'll see the truth soon enough. Asterisk, Leah had recorded it. The tiny voice recorder, a gift from a school friend, now sits hidden in her pocket, filled with similar moments. She replays them at night, her stomach twisting, wondering if she should tell her father. But every time she considers it, she remembers the way his eyes light up when Naomi laughs, the way he seems younger, lighter. So she stays silent. Outside, the lake shimmers under the fading sun, its surface deceptively calm. The mansion gleams like a jewel, its opulence masking the fractures beneath. Tomorrow, vows will be exchanged, toasts will be made, and the world will see a perfect union. But Leah knows the truth, and the truth is a quiet, suffocating thing. The grand wedding fades into memory, replaced by the suffocating reality of Naomi's new reign. The mansion, once filled with laughter and the warmth of Damian's presence, now hums with tension. Naomi no longer bothers with the pretense of kindness. Her smiles, once carefully curated for public eyes, now twist into something colder when Leah enters the room. Kyle, once merely indifferent, has become a weapon in Naomi's hands. She whispers in his ear during breakfast, her words dripping with disdain. Asterisk, look at her. So quiet, so weak. Your father only keeps her out of guilt. Asterisk, Kyle absorbs the poison eagerly, his adolescent resentment sharpening into something crueler. He begins leaving Leah's books out in the rain, accidentally knocking over her tea, smirking when she flinches. Leah retreats further into herself. She keeps the recorder close, capturing every hissed insult, every calculated cruelty. But the evidence weighs heavier each day. Damian is rarely home, his empire demanding more of his time, and when he does return, Naomi transforms, her voice soft, her hands gentle as she strokes Leah's hair in his presence. "She's been so brave," she tells Damian, her eyes glistening with false sympathy. Leah wants to scream. Then comes the night Damian leaves for Tokyo. The house falls silent in his absence. Naomi waits until the taillights of his car vanish down the driveway before her mask cracks. She finds Leah in her room, packing her school bag for the next day. Without a word, Naomi yanks her by the wrist, her nails biting into skin. Leah's protests die in her throat as she's dragged downstairs, past Kyle's smirking face, out into the cold embrace of the night. The car ride is a blur of streetlights and Naomi's icy silence. When the vehicle finally stops, it's on a desolate stretch of road, miles from the nearest town. The door swings open, and Leah stumbles onto the asphalt, her knees scraping against the rough surface. Naomi doesn't look at her as she tosses a crumpled $50 bill at her feet. "Run," she says, her voice devoid of emotion. Then the car door slams shut, tires screeching as it disappears into the darkness. Leah stands frozen, the wind howling around her. The recorder is still in her pocket, but it feels useless now. Hours later, Damien's phone rings. Naomi's voice is hysterical, choked with tears. She's gone. I woke up and she was just gone. Damien's world fractures. Police swarm the estate. Search dogs comb the woods, but Leah has vanished without a trace. Naomi clings to Damien, her sobs shaking her body. "She was so troubled," she whispers. Maybe she didn't want to be found. Damien refuses to believe it. He hires private investigators, offers rewards, but the years pass, and Leah's face fades from newspapers, from public memory. Naomi watches with quiet satisfaction as Damien's hope dims, as he begins to accept the unthinkable. She removes Leah's photos from the walls, donates her clothes, reshapes their lives around the absence. But in the dead of night, when the house is still, Damien sometimes stands at Leah's old window, staring at the stars. He doesn't see the way Naomi smiles in the shadows behind him, and he doesn't hear the whisper she lets slip into the dark. Good riddance. 10 years dissolve like smoke, leaving behind scars that never truly healed. Chicago's skyline looms unchanged, its steel and glass towers reflecting the same indifferent sun. But the woman stepping out of the taxi is no longer the broken girl who once trembled on a desolate road. Alicia Monroe moves through the city with calculated grace, her dark eyes absorbing everything. The name is new, carefully constructed, just like the sleek designer suit hugging her frame and the understated confidence in her stride. The years have sharpened her, where Leah was soft, Alicia is edges. She survived because of an old couple who found her that night, shivering and mute with shock. Martha and Henry Waverly took her in, asked no questions, gave her a bed and, eventually, a new identity. They are buried now, their kindness repaid with quiet visits to their graves. But gratitude is not what fuels her return. Alicia secures a position at Carter Media Group through a series of deliberate maneuvers, flawless credentials, strategic connections, a resume tailored to bypass suspicion. She starts in the finance department, far enough from the executive floor to avoid immediate notice, but close enough to observe. Naomi Bryant Carter has flourished in Leah's absence. Her charity galas grace society pages. Her political endorsements sway elections. The media paints her as a saint, the devoted stepmother who never stopped searching for her lost stepdaughter. Alicia watches her at a fundraising event, noting the practiced warmth in her smile, the way her hand lingers too long on donors' arms. Kyle, now 26, is a rising star at his law firm. His arrogance has matured into a polished charm, his once cruel smirk replaced by a courtroom-perfect grin. He dates models, attends yacht parties, and carries himself like a man who has never doubted his place in the world. Then there's Damien. Alicia sees him once, through the glass walls of a conference room. His hair has silvered at the temples, his broad shoulders slightly stooped, as if carrying an invisible weight. He listens to his executives with a distracted air, his gaze occasionally drifting to a framed photo on his desk. One she can't see from this angle, but doesn't need to. She studies them all, dissecting their routines, their weaknesses. Naomi's reliance on sleeping pills. Kyle's habit of leaving his laptop unlocked at cafes. Damien's solitary walks along the river at dusk. Alicia's apartment is sparse, its only personal touch a small safe hidden in the closet. Inside lies the recorder, its battery long dead, its secrets preserved like a fossil. She doesn't play it. She doesn't need to. The voices live in her head, echoing in the spaces between dreams and waking. Revenge is a patient thing, and Alicia has learned to wait. The game begins with a carefully orchestrated collision. Alicia arranges to accidentally bump into Kyle at an upscale coffee shop near his law firm, spilling his latte in a move that appears entirely unplanned. Her apology is warm, laced with just the right amount of flustered charm, and when their eyes meet, she lets hers linger a fraction too long before looking away. Kyle is intrigued. Most women fawn over him, drawn to his name, his wealth, his carefully cultivated allure. But this woman, Alicia, seems indifferent to it all. She talks to him not as Kyle Carter, heir to a media empire, but as just a man. It's a novelty, and he finds himself chasing it. Their first date is at an obscure jazz club she suggests, a place far from the usual society spots. In the dim light, with the saxophone weaving through the smoky air, Alicia lets her guard down just enough. She laughs at his jokes, listens with feigned fascination to his stories, and when his fingers brush hers, she doesn't pull away. Kyle is not used to being the one who pursues. It excites him. Naomi notices the change at her son immediately. He's distracted, his phone always in hand, his smiles private and unguarded. When she asks about the woman, Kyle brushes her off with a casualness that sets her teeth on edge. Alicia makes sure their paths cross at a charity gala weeks later. She wears emerald green, a color that makes her stand out in a sea of neutrals, and moves through the crowd with effortless poise. Damien notices her first. There's something hauntingly familiar in the way she tilts her head, the way her fingers curl around her champagne flute. But before he can approach, Kyle is at her side, his hand possessive on the small of her back. Naomi watches from across the room, her champagne flute freezing halfway to her lips. This woman is no ordinary gold digger. There's a calculation in her eyes, a quiet confidence that doesn't match the narrative of a woman simply smitten with her son. Alicia feels Naomi's gaze like a physical touch. She meets it briefly, just long enough to let the older woman see the challenge in her eyes, before turning back to Kyle with a smile that doesn't reach them. Later, in the dim backseat of a hired car, Kyle kisses her with a hunger that surprises even himself. Alicia allows it, her fingers threading through his hair, her mind elsewhere. When he murmurs against her lips about how different she is, how real, she almost laughs, because he has no idea just how real this is. The next morning, over breakfast at his penthouse, she lets slip a carefully crafted comment about Naomi's latest charity initiative. It's impressive how she's rebuilt her image, Alicia muses, stirring her coffee. After everything. Kyle frowns. After what? Alicia feigns hesitation, then shakes her head. Nothing. Forget I said anything. But the seed is planted. Naomi, meanwhile, digs. She hires a discreet investigator, demands background checks, but Alicia's past is a fortress, every detail meticulously constructed. The more Naomi pushes, the tighter Kyle pulls away, convinced his mother is trying to control him yet again. And Damien watches from the sidelines, haunted by a ghost he can't name. Alicia feels the pieces shifting, the balance tilting. The fire is lit. Now, she just has to watch it burn. Damien's restlessness grows with each passing day. There's something about Alicia that lingers in his mind like a half-remembered melody. The way she absently tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, the particular tilt of her head when listening. These small, unconscious gestures tug at memories he's tried so hard to bury. He finds himself watching her during meetings, catching glimpses of a ghost in her fleeting expressions. Naomi senses the shift in her husband, the way his gaze lingers too long on Alicia, the distracted air that clouds his usually sharp focus. It ignites a quiet panic within her. She doubles her efforts, pressing the private investigator for answers, demanding deeper dives into Alicia's background. But the reports come back frustratingly clean. Too clean. Kyle remains oblivious to the growing storm. His infatuation with Alicia deepens into something more consuming, something that terrifies him with its intensity. For the first time in his life, he cares about someone more than himself, more than his family name. When Alicia pulls away, citing sudden doubts, he chases her with a desperation that surprises them both. The breaking point comes on a rain-slicked evening. Damien, unable to shake his suspicions, digs through old files late at night. His fingers pause on a decade-old photo of Leah, her smile, her eyes. The resemblance strikes him like a physical blow. Across town, Naomi receives the investigator's final report. The pieces click together with horrifying clarity. She moves quickly, but not quickly enough. Kyle arrives at Alicia's apartment unannounced, his heart pounding with a confession he can no longer contain. He finds her standing by the window, her silhouette framed by city lights. When she turns, the raw pain in her eyes stops him cold. The truth hangs between them, unspoken but undeniable. Kyle's world fractures as realization dawns. The woman he loves is the sister he never knew. But instead of revulsion, he feels only a terrible, aching rightness. Alicia watches the play of emotions across his face, expecting disgust, anticipating the final blow of her revenge. But what she sees instead unravels her carefully constructed plans. His love doesn't waver, it transforms, becomes something deeper, more complex. For the first time in 10 years, Alicia hesitates. The vengeance that has fueled her for so long suddenly feels hollow. The recorder in her drawer, filled with Naomi's venomous words, seems suddenly insignificant compared to the living, breathing man before her. Outside, the rain falls harder, washing over the city like a promise of change. Inside, two damaged souls stand at a precipice, the past and future balanced precariously between them. The truth is out. Now comes the reckoning. The penthouse reeks of expensive perfume and desperation as Naomi frantically shoves jewelry into a Louis Vuitton suitcase. Her perfectly manicured fingers tremble as she grabs passports, cash, the emergency credit cards she'd hidden years ago. The walls of her gilded cage are closing in, and for the first time in her life, the master manipulator finds herself outmaneuvered. Downstairs in the study, Damien stands like a statue carved from grief and rage. The digital recorder in his hand plays Leah's childhood voice, followed by Naomi's venomous words from a decade ago. The evidence is irrefutable, bank records showing payments to private investigators who lost Leah's trail, emails coordinating cover stories, all meticulously preserved by Alicia. Across the city, Alicia paces her apartment like a caged animal. The revenge that once tasted so sweet now turns to ash in her mouth. Kyle's raw confession lingers between them, his willingness to defy every societal norm for something real shaking her to her core. The broken girl inside her wars with the woman she's become. Naomi's escape attempt ends at the private airfield. Damien's security team intercepts her just as she reaches the jet stairs. The socialite's carefully constructed mask shatters completely. Her screams echo across the tarmac, her designer heels kicking uselessly against the men restraining her. Photographers, tipped off anonymously, capture every undignified moment. The reunion between father and daughter happens in the Carter Media Group boardroom at midnight. Damien's tears fall freely as he traces the features of the woman his little girl has become. The years of grief pour out in shuddering breaths as he clutches Alicia like she might disappear again. She remains stiff at first, her body still armored against a decade of pain. But slowly, muscle by muscle, she allows herself to melt into the embrace. Kyle watches from the doorway, his heart pounding. The brother who once tormented her now stands ready to burn the world down for her. When Alicia finally meets his gaze, the connection between them crackles with unspoken possibilities, forbidden, complicated, but undeniably real. As dawn breaks over Chicago, the media frenzy begins. Naomi's fall from grace plays out across every news outlet, her philanthropic facade crumbling to reveal the monster beneath. Damien issues a statement that sends shockwaves through high society. His daughter has returned, and the woman who stole those years will face justice. Alicia stands on her balcony, watching the city wake. The recorder that started it all rests in her palm, its weight both literal and symbolic. With slow deliberation, she drops it over the railing, listening as it shatters on the pavement below. Inside, Kyle waits, his question hanging in the air between them. The elevator doors stand open, an invitation to leave, to start fresh, to maybe one day discover what they could be to each other beyond the wreckage of their past. Alicia turns from the view, her face unreadable. The story isn't over, but for the first time in years, it might finally be hers to write.